During my husband's funeral, my daughter-in-law said, "You only exist out of stubbornness. You should have left this world already." I stayed silent. The next day, when I left, their faces froze as they saw the truth. The words hung in the air like poison. But I didn't give Vanessa the satisfaction of seeing me break. Not here, not at Robert's funeral. I simply looked into her cold eyes, then turned away to face my husband's casket. 45 years together, gone. The mahogany coffin seemed too small to contain the life we'd built. I placed my trembling hand on the polished wood, feeling the cold finality beneath my fingers. "Mom," my son Thomas approached, his arm around Vanessa's waist. "We should go. The reception is starting." I nodded, unable to speak. The church had emptied, leaving just the three of us and the crushing weight of what Vanessa had said. Did Thomas hear her? Did he know how cruel his wife had become? I searched his face for some recognition, some sign that he still saw me as his mother, but his eyes were distant, already pulled into Vanessa's orbit. At the reception in my home, I sat in the corner armchair Robert always claimed during our dinner parties. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. From this vantage point, I watched Vanessa work the room. She wore black elegantly, her blonde hair pulled back in a respectful bun, her makeup subtle enough to suggest grief without ruining her perfect complexion. She touched people's arms as they offered condolences, lowered her eyes at appropriate moments, and kept refilling glasses and passing hors d'oeuvres as if she'd been the lady of this house for decades. Margaret. My sister-in-law Helen sat beside me, her voice dropping to a whisper. "How are you holding up, really?" "I'm fine," I lied, clutching my untouched glass of water. Helen's eyes narrowed. "That girl," she nodded toward Vanessa, "has been moving Thomas's things into the master bedroom." I saw boxes in the hallway, my stomach twisted. They have their own home. Apparently not anymore. Helen patted my hand. "You need to be careful, Margaret. She's been talking to everyone about how worried they are about you living alone. How forgetful you've been." Forgetful? I'd never missed a bill payment or a doctor's appointment in my life. Just last week, I'd reminded Thomas about his father's heart medication schedule when he took over the caregiving for a day. I was 73, not incapacitated. "Helen, Margaret." Vanessa's voice cut through our conversation as she approached with a plastic smile. "You should eat something. Everyone's been asking about you." "I'm not hungry, thank you," I said quietly. "You need to keep up your strength." Her voice carried just enough for nearby guests to hear, painting me as fragile. "Thomas and I are worried." "About you." Thomas appeared behind her, his eyes red from crying. "Mom, Vanessa's right. Please eat something." I took the plate to appease them, to end the public display of concern that felt more like a performance than genuine care. As the evening wore on and guests departed, I noticed how Vanessa directed the cleanup, instructing people where things belonged in my own kitchen. She'd only been in our family for 5 years, but somehow she'd positioned herself as the authority on everything, including me. "Margaret, Thomas, and I will stay tonight," Vanessa announced as the last guests left. "Not a question, a statement. That's not necessary," I said firmly. "I'll be fine on my own." Thomas looked uncomfortable. "Mom, we think it's best. Just for a few days until we figure things out." "Figure what out?" I wanted to ask, but exhaustion had settled into my bones. This wasn't the time to fight. Robert was barely gone, and already they were carving up the life we'd built. "Just for tonight, then," I conceded. Later, lying in bed, our bed, without Robert for the first time, I heard them talking in the guest room across the hall. Their voices rose and fell, with Vanessa's sharper tone occasionally cutting through. Thomas's lower murmurs. "Sooner rather than later," I caught her saying. "The market is perfect right now." "It's too soon," Thomas responded. "She's not ready." "She'll never be ready. That's the point." I pulled the pillow over my head, unable to bear more. In the darkness, I reached for Robert's side of the bed, finding only cold sheets. Tears came then, silent and relentless. Morning light filtered through the curtains when I heard them in the kitchen. I dressed slowly, my joints stiff with grief and age, and made my way downstairs. They fell silent when I entered. Thomas was at the table with papers spread before him, which he quickly gathered into a folder. Vanessa stood by the coffee maker, her smile too bright for a house in mourning. "Good morning, Margaret. Coffee?" I nodded, taking a seat across from Thomas. "What are those papers?" Thomas and Vanessa exchanged a glance. "Just some things we need to sort out," Thomas said vaguely. "What things?" Vanessa set a coffee cup in front of me with unnecessary force. Financial matters, Margaret. Nothing for you to worry about. I'd handled our household finances for decades while Robert built his contracting business. I'd put Thomas through college, helped with the down payment on his first house, and managed our retirement planning. Nothing about our financial matters was beyond my understanding. I'd like to see them, I said, reaching for the folder. Thomas pulled it back. Mom, there's a lot going on right now. Let us handle this part. Thomas, those appear to be my financial documents. I have every right. Margaret, Vanessa cut in sharply, then softened her tone. We're just trying to help. After what happened last month with the stove, we're concerned. The stove? I'd accidentally left it on once after Helen called about her husband's stroke. One incident in years and suddenly I was incompetent? I appreciate your concern, I said carefully, but I'm perfectly capable of managing my affairs. Vanessa's smile tightened. Of course you are. We just think with everything happening you shouldn't have to worry about these details. I looked at my son, searching for the boy who once came to me with his problems, who trusted my judgment. He wouldn't meet my eyes. We've been thinking, Thomas began hesitantly, that maybe this house is too much for you now. All these stairs, the maintenance. And there it was. Not even a day after we'd laid Robert to rest, and they were already planning to move me out of my home. I'm not leaving, I said simply. Mom, be reasonable. This place is too big for just you. We thought, no. I stood up, my coffee untouched. This is my home. Robert and I built it together. I'm not leaving. Vanessa's facade cracked slightly. Margaret, you're being stubborn, I finished for her. Yes, apparently I exist. Out of stubbornness. Isn't that what you said yesterday at my husband's funeral? Thomas's head snapped up. What? What are you talking about, Mom? But before I could answer, Vanessa laughed dismissively. Your mother must have misheard something. She's been under so much stress. I looked at my son, at the doubt in his eyes, doubt about me, not his wife. That's when I knew I would get no support from him. In 5 short years, Vanessa had completely replaced me in his life. I think I'd like to rest now, I said quietly. Perhaps you both could come back tomorrow? After a moment of uncomfortable silence, they gathered their things. Vanessa kissed my cheek, a cold formality that made my skin crawl. Thomas hugged me awkwardly, promising to check in later. As soon as their car pulled away, I went to Robert's study and locked the door behind me. My hands shook as I approached his desk, the place where he'd spent his final months getting things in order, as he'd put it. I didn't know what I was looking for until I found it. A sealed envelope with my name in Robert's handwriting, tucked inside his favorite book. I tore it open, my heart pounding. My dearest Margaret, it began. If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you're probably already seeing what I feared. Chapter 2. The House We Built. My dearest Margaret, Robert's letter continued. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're likely seeing what I feared. I've watched Vanessa's influence over Thomas grow, and I've seen how they look at our home, our savings, our life. Don't trust them with your future. My hands trembled. Even in death, Robert was protecting me. I've made arrangements. In my desk, behind the false panel in the bottom drawer, the one where I kept my fishing permits, you'll find a key. It opens the safe deposit box at First National. Go there immediately. Tell no one. I wiped away tears and moved to the drawer. The false panel slid away, revealing a small key taped to the wood. I pocketed it just as the doorbell rang. Thomas's car was in the driveway. I tucked the letter into my blouse and answered the door. Mom, Thomas looked sheepish. We forgot some papers. In Dad's study? I asked, blocking the entrance. Yes, Vanessa peered over my shoulder. Financial documents we were reviewing. I followed her to the study, watching as she went straight to the drawer where I'd just found the key. She pulled out a folder, flipping through it with practiced familiarity. What are those documents? I asked. Just some information about the house, Thomas said vaguely. Dad asked me to look into some things before he passed. I doubted that. Robert would have told me. After they left, I waited 30 minutes. Then went to First National Bank. The bank manager, Mr. Peterson, had known us for decades. Mrs. Clarke, I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you, James. I need to access our safe deposit box. Inside were several envelopes, a USB drive, and a leather-bound notebook. The first envelope contained a revised will dated 3 months ago. The house remained solely in my name. Robert had put it in my name after we paid off the mortgage 15 years ago. He'd also set up a separate account at Meridian Credit Union with nearly $300,000 from a business investment. Thomas knew nothing. About the second envelope held property deeds, insurance policies, and account passwords. The third contained photographs, including several recent ones of Vanessa speaking with a real estate agent on our front porch, while Robert was in the hospital. Robert's journal was the most revealing. March 15th, overheard Vanessa telling Thomas. They could get at least $450,000 for the house. They don't know Margaret owns it outright. Thomas seems reluctant, but he never stands up to her. April 2nd, Vanessa suggested moving Margaret to Sunny Pines retirement home after I'm gone. Said it would be for her own good. April 10th, set up the new account today. Margaret will have what she needs. The last entry was a week before he died. I love you, Margaret. You've been my strength for 45 years. Be strong for yourself now. Don't let them take what we built. I closed the journal, a strange calm replacing my grief. Robert had seen everything and prepared a way out. Back home, I noticed small changes already happening. Vanessa had moved some of Robert's things, replaced family photos with newer ones, featuring her and Thomas prominently. The phone rang, startling me. Mom, it's Caroline. My daughter lived in Colorado, too far to have made the funeral. I'm so sorry. The snowstorm blocked all flights. It's all right, sweetheart. How are you holding up? Is Thomas helping? I hesitated. He's been around with Vanessa. Is she still difficult? Caroline had seen through Vanessa from the beginning. They want me to sell the house, I admitted. Move to a retirement home. What? Dad's not even cold in his grave. Her outrage was validating. You're not going anywhere, Mom. That's your house. Yes, I said, feeling stronger. It is. Maybe you should come stay with me for a while. The offer was tempting. Thank you, but I need to handle things here first. I told her about the safe deposit box, the will, the separate account. That sounds like Dad, she said proudly. Always one step ahead, but be careful. Don't let them know what you found. Later, the doorbell rang. Vanessa's sister, Lauren, stood with a casserole dish. I brought dinner. I thought you might not feel like cooking. In the kitchen, she hesitated. I'm sorry about Robert, and about other things too. What things, Lauren? She looked around nervously. Vanessa has been talking about selling your house for months. Even before Robert got sick, she's already contacted her real estate friend. Why are you telling me this? Because it's wrong. My sister wants this house to fund their new business venture. Business venture? That was news to me. They're coming. Tomorrow with papers for you to sign, Lauren warned. Power of attorney, I think. After she left, I went back to Robert's study. Power of attorney would give them control over everything. My finances, my healthcare, my life. I looked at our wedding photo, at Robert's confident smile. I won't let them take what we built, I promised him, not without a fight. I woke before sunrise, my mind clear and focused for the first time since Robert's death. If Thomas and Vanessa were coming with power of attorney papers today, I needed to be prepared. I showered and dressed carefully, choosing a tailored navy dress that Robert always said made me look formidable. Looking in the mirror, I pinched some color into my cheeks. I wouldn't appear as the fragile widow they expected to find. By 7, I'd called Mr. Peterson at home, an advantage of small-town connections, and arranged to meet him at the bank before it opened. By 8, I'd transferred the majority of funds from our joint accounts to the separate account Robert had established. By 9, I'd contacted my own lawyer, Sandra Mills, who promised to be at my house by noon. Don't sign anything before I get. There, she warned. I was making coffee when Thomas called. Mom, Vanessa and I are coming over around 1. There are some things we need to discuss. Actually, I said, keeping my voice light, I was hoping we could make it a proper family meeting. I've asked Caroline to video call in. Silence then. Caroline? But she's not even here. She's still family, Thomas. And this concerns all of us, doesn't it? He cleared his throat. Fine. 1 o'clock. I spent the next few hours going through Robert's documents, organizing everything. When Sandra arrived, I showed her the will, the property deeds, and Robert's journal. This is quite the insurance policy your husband left you, she said, impressed. And just in time from the sound of it. What should I do when they come with these papers? Sandra's eyes were sharp. Let them talk. Don't interrupt. The more they reveal about their intentions, the better. I'll stay out of sight initially, but I'll be recording with your permission. At precisely 1 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and opened the door. Thomas looked stressed, dark circles under his eyes. Vanessa wore a sympathetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. Behind them stood an older man carrying a briefcase. "Mom, this is Mr. Winters," Thomas said. "He's our attorney." Their attorney. Not mine, not ours. The distinction was clear. "Please, come in." I led them to the living room where my laptop was open on the coffee table, Caroline's face visible on the screen. "Hi, Mom," she called. "Thomas, Vanessa." Thomas nodded stiffly. Vanessa's smile tightened. "Let's get started," I said, taking Robert's armchair, the position of authority in the room. Mr. Winters opened his briefcase. "Mrs. Clarke, first let me express my condolences." "Thank you. In difficult times like these, it's important to ensure affairs are properly managed." He pulled out a document. "Your son and daughter-in-law have expressed concern about your ability to manage on your own." "Have they?" I kept my voice neutral. "Mom," Thomas leaned forward. "We're worried about you. This house is too much. The stairs, the maintenance, and the expenses," Vanessa added smoothly. "Property taxes alone are substantial. We think it would be best if you moved somewhere more appropriate for your situation." Thomas wouldn't meet my eyes. "And where would that be?" I asked. "Sunny Pines," Vanessa answered promptly. "It's a lovely retirement community. We toured it last week." Last week, while Robert was still in hospice. See? I folded my hands in my lap. "And what would happen to the house?" They exchanged glances. "We'd sell it, of course," Vanessa said. "The market is excellent right now. The proceeds would help pay for Sunny Pines." "And if there's anything left over?" I asked innocently. Thomas shifted uncomfortably. "Well, that would be managed responsibly." "By whom?" Mr. Winters cleared his throat. "That's why we're here. This document would grant power of attorney to Thomas, for your protection." "From the I laptop?" Caroline's voice cut in. "Protection from what exactly?" Vanessa shot the screen an irritated look. "From financial mistakes. From predatory services targeting the elderly." "My mother is 73, not incapacitated," Caroline snapped. "Caroline, please," Thomas sighed. "You're not here. You don't see how forgetful Mom's been." I hadn't forgotten anything. They were inventing a problem to justify their solution. Mr. Winters slid the papers toward me. "Mrs. Clarke, this would simply ensure that your son can make decisions in your best interest when needed." "Like selling my house?" I asked mildly. "If that becomes necessary, yes." I picked up the document, pretending to read it carefully. In reality, I was giving Sandra, hidden in the kitchen, time to record everything. "And this business venture of yours," I said casually, "would it benefit from the house proceeds as well?" The room went still. Thomas's head snapped up. Vanessa's smile vanished. "What business venture?" Thomas asked. "The one Vanessa has been planning. The one she needs capital for." I set the paper down. "The one she's been discussing with real estate agents on our front porch while your father was dying." "I don't know what you're talking about," Vanessa said coldly. "Don't you?" I stood and walked to the drawer where I'd placed copies of Robert's photographs. I laid them on the table. "Robert saw everything, Vanessa. He kept records." Thomas picked up a photo, his face paling. It showed Vanessa shaking hands with a real estate agent on our porch, dated 2 months ago. "Vanessa?" Thomas's voice was barely audible. "What is this?" "It's not what it looks like," she said quickly. "It's exactly what it looks like," I said. "You've been planning to sell this house out from under me since before Robert died." "That's ridiculous," she sputtered. "Tell her, Thomas." But Thomas was flipping through the photos, his expression hardening. Mr. Winters cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should reschedule this meeting." "No need," I said. "I've made my decision." I tore the power of attorney document in half. "I will not be signing this. Not today, not ever." "Mom," Thomas began. "I'm not finished," I said firmly. "This is my house. Mine alone. Robert put it solely in my name 15 years ago." Vanessa's face darkened. "That's not possible." "It's not only possible, it's fact." I nodded toward the kitchen and Sandra emerged with her own briefcase. "This is Sandra Mills, my attorney. She has copies of all the relevant documentation." "You ambushed us," Vanessa accused. No, dear, I protected myself, as Robert protected me. Mom, we were only trying to help, Thomas insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. Were you? I looked at my son, really looked at him. Or were you letting your wife make decisions that hurt your mother? He had no answer. I think you should leave now, I said quietly. All of you. As they gathered their things, I added, and Thomas? I'd like my house key back, please. The house felt different after they left, lighter somehow, as if their departure had lifted a weight I hadn't realized was pressing down on me. Sandra stayed for another hour, reviewing legal options and next steps. They won't give up easily, she warned, tucking documents into her briefcase. Especially Vanessa. People like her don't handle defeat well. What do you think they'll do? I asked. They might try to claim you're mentally incompetent. It's a common tactic. Sandra's eyes were serious. Have you had a checkup recently? I nodded. Last month for Robert's insurance, complete physical and cognitive assessment. Perfect. Get those records. We'll need them if they try anything. After Sandra left, I reconnected with Caroline, whose face appeared worried on my laptop screen. Mom, are you okay? That was intense. I'm fine, sweetheart. Better than I've been in weeks. Thomas looked shocked. Do you think he really didn't know what Vanessa was planning? I sighed, considering the question. I think he chose not to know. It's easier to let someone else make the hard decisions, even when they're wrong. Like putting his own mother in a retirement home? Caroline's voice was sharp. He's lost right now, I said, surprised to find I felt more pity than anger toward my son. Your father was his anchor too. That's no excuse. No, it's not. But I'm not giving up on him yet. We talked a while longer, making plans for Caroline to visit in 2 weeks. After we disconnected, I sat in the growing darkness of the living room, thinking about next steps. Robert would have had a plan. I needed one too. The house phone rang, startling me. Few people called that number anymore. Hello? Mom? Thomas's voice sounded strained. Can we talk? I think we said everything that needed saying earlier. Please. Just me. No Vanessa, no lawyers. I hesitated. When? Now? I'm at the diner down the street. 20 minutes later, I slid into a booth across from my son. He looked terrible, eyes red-rimmed, hair disheveled. A half-empty coffee cup sat before him. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. I waited, saying nothing. I didn't know. He finally said, about Vanessa talking to real estate agents, about any of it. What did you think was happening, Thomas, when you discussed putting me in Sunny Pines? He stared into his coffee. I thought we were looking at options. For your safety, your comfort. I didn't realize she'd already decided. And selling the house? Was that for my benefit too? He flinched. She said the proceeds would pay for the retirement home, that you'd have money left over. Left over after what? After funding this business venture I keep hearing about? Thomas looked up, confusion crossing his face. What business venture? So he truly didn't know. You should ask your wife about that. A long silence stretched between us. Finally, Thomas spoke again, his voice barely audible. Dad knew, didn't he? That's why he changed things. Protected you. I nodded. Your father always saw more than he let on. I've made a mess of everything. He pressed his palms against his eyes. I don't know what to do. Part of me wanted to comfort him, to tell him everything would be all right, but that wasn't what he needed to hear. You need to decide who you are, Thomas. Are you the man your cool father raised you to be? Or are you whoever Vanessa wants you to be? He looked at me then, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time in years. I'm sorry, Mom. I know. We didn't say much more. Some wounds take time to heal, and this one was still too fresh. When we parted outside the diner, his hug was awkward but genuine. I need to figure some things out, he said. Yes, you do. I watched him walk to his car, shoulders hunched against the evening chill. He had choices to make, hard ones, but they were his to make, not mine. The next morning, I woke with purpose. Thomas's visit had clarified something for me. I couldn't wait for others to determine my future. I needed to secure it myself. I made 3 calls before breakfast. The first was to Dr. Branson, requesting copies of my recent medical records. The second was to a locksmith, who promised to come that afternoon to change all the locks. The third was to Helen, asking her to come stay with me for a few days. Of course I will, she said immediately. Is everything all right? It will be, I told her. But I could use a friend right now. After the calls, I made a list. If Vanessa was determined enough, she might escalate beyond legal means. I needed to protect not just my legal rights, but my daily life as well. I spent the morning securing the house, changing passwords on all accounts, collecting important documents, photographing valuables. I had no illusions about what divorce might do to Thomas financially, or how desperate Vanessa might become. The doorbell rang at noon. The locksmith, a young man named Jason, made quick work of the locks. All set, Mrs. Clarke. 4 new keys, as requested. Thank you. As he was leaving, a silver Mercedes pulled into the driveway. Vanessa emerged, her expression cold when she saw the locksmith's van. Margaret, she said tightly as she approached, we need to talk. I have nothing to say to you, Vanessa. You turned my husband against me. Her voice was low, dangerous. No, you did that yourself. Her perfect mask slipped, revealing the anger beneath. This isn't over. Thomas is confused right now, but he'll come around. He always does. Not this time. I stood straighter. You underestimated me. You thought I was just a grieving old woman you could push aside? You think you've won? She laughed, a brittle sound. Thomas will choose me. He always chooses me. Then that will be his mistake to make, I said calmly. But this house and my life are no longer your concern. I turned to go inside, but her next words stopped me. I'll contest the will. I'll claim Robert wasn't competent when he made those changes. I'll drag this out until you're broke from legal fees. I faced her. Again, you could do that. But then everyone would see the photographs, the recordings, Robert's journal entries detailing your plans. Are you prepared for Thomas to know everything? Uncertainty flickered across her face. You're bluffing. Try me. We stood there, 2 women locked in silent combat, neither willing to yield. Finally, Vanessa turned and walked back to her car. As she drove away, I realized my hands were shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline. The battle wasn't over, but I'd won this skirmish. Helen arrived that evening with a suitcase and a casserole. As we sat in the kitchen, I told her everything. Good for you, she said when I finished. Robert would be proud. I hope so. I picked at my food. I just wish Thomas could see her clearly. He will, Helen said confidently. Men like Thomas eventually find their backbones. It just takes time. I'm not sure I have time to wait. I need to think about my future now. What are you planning? I smiled. The first genuine smile in days. Something Robert and I talked about. For years, but never did. Something just for me. 2 weeks passed with surprising quietness. Helen stayed for 5 days, her practical nature and dry humor a balm for my wounded spirit. We sorted through Robert's clothes, reminisced over old photographs, and made plans for a small memorial garden in the backyard. You seem different, Helen remarked one evening. Stronger. I feel different, I admitted, like I've woken up from a long sleep. Caroline arrived the day after Helen left, bringing energy and determination with her. She worked remotely from the guest room, joined me for long walks, and helped research options for my future. What about this? She asked one evening, showing me a brochure for a beachfront condo in Florida. It's in a 55-plus community, but not a care facility. Complete independence with amenities. I studied the photos of palm trees and white sand beaches. Robert and I had always talked about retiring to the coast. It's beautiful, I said. But expensive. Caroline grinned. Not with Dad's secret account. You could buy it outright and still have plenty left. The idea took root. A fresh start. A place Thomas and Vanessa knew nothing about. I'd be 1,000 miles away from you, I pointed out. Mom, I can work from anywhere. I could visit for weeks at a time. She squeezed my hand. Besides, you deserve this. After everything. I didn't make any decisions that night, but the seed was planted. The real surprise came 3 days later when Thomas called. Mom? I'd like to come talk. With Caroline there too, if that's okay. Of course, I said cautiously. I've been doing a lot of thinking, he continued. A lot of realizing things. When he arrived that evening, his appearance shocked me. He'd lost weight, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. He hugged me tightly at the door, something he hadn't done in years. In the living room, he sat across from Caroline and me, hands clasped tightly. I found out about the business, he said without preamble. Vanessa's been planning to open a luxury spa. She needed about $350,000 in startup capital. The approximate value of this house, Caroline noted. Thomas nodded. She had everything mapped out. Location, investors, contingent on our contribution, of course. She even had a business name registered. He looked up, his expression pained. She's been planning this for over a year, Mom, while Dad was still healthy. My heart ached for him. I'm sorry, Thomas. Don't apologize to me. His voice cracked. I'm the one who should be apologizing. I let her manipulate me. I chose her over my own parents. You loved her, I said simply. Love can blind. Us. Us. That's no excuse. He straightened his shoulders. I've moved out. I'm staying at a hotel while I figure things out. Caroline leaned forward. Are you okay financially? With everything? He nodded. Dad made sure my name wasn't on the house. Deed. It's one of the things that infuriated Vanessa. She can't touch it in a divorce. The word hung in the air. Divorce. Final. Irreversible. Is that what you want? I asked gently. I don't know what I want, he admitted. But I know what I don't want. I don't want to be the kind of son who abandons his mother, the kind of man who lets someone else make his decisions. We talked for hours that night, truly talked, about Robert, about grief, about the subtle ways Vanessa had isolated Thomas from his family. It wasn't a perfect reconciliation, but it was a beginning. As he was leaving, Thomas hesitated at the door. Mom, I'd like to make this right somehow. Maybe we could have dinner Friday? The three of us? I agreed, touched by his effort. Caroline looked skeptical but supportive. The days until Friday passed quickly. I continued my research on Florida properties, even scheduling a virtual tour of the beachfront condo. Caroline helped me organize Robert's remaining affairs and create a detailed financial plan. By Friday, I'd made my decision. I would move to Florida, start fresh, build the life Robert and I had always dreamed about. But first, I would try to heal things with Thomas. He arrived at 6, bearing flowers and a bottle of Robert's favorite scotch. For after dinner, he explained, setting it on the sideboard. A toast to Dad. Caroline made herself scarce in the kitchen, giving us time alone. I spoke with Sandra this morning, Thomas said, settling on the couch. Asked her to draft paperwork relinquishing any future claims to this property. I wanted in writing that this house is yours, no questions. That's not necessary, I began. It is, he insisted. I need to make this right. Dinner was pleasant, the conversation careful but warm. Thomas shared stories about Robert I'd never heard, from fishing trips and baseball games, moments between father and son that had shaped him. After the meal, we moved to the living room with our coffee. Thomas poured 3 small glasses of scotch, raising his in a toast. To Dad, he said simply. To Robert, I echoed, the familiar burn of the liquor bringing tears to my eyes. Thomas set his glass down. There's something else I wanted to talk about. I think Vanessa's planning something. Caroline stiffened. What kind of something? I'm not sure. She's been making calls, meeting with people. She mentioned something about elder services. My stomach tightened. She's going to try to claim I'm incompetent. Thomas nodded grimly. I think so. That's why I wanted to warn you. Let her try, Caroline said fiercely. We have Mom's medical records, Dad's documentation, everything. Still, it could get ugly, Thomas warned. Vanessa doesn't like to lose. I took a deep breath, looking between my children. It was time. I've made a decision, I announced. I'm moving to Florida. Their reactions couldn't have been more different. Caroline smiled knowingly while Thomas looked stunned. Florida? He repeated. When? Why? I've found a beachfront condo in a community your father and I always admired. I'm using the money from his separate account to buy it outright. But your life is here, Thomas protested. Your friends, your home. This house was our home, I corrected gently. Without Robert, it's just a house. A beautiful one with memories, but still just a house. What about Vanessa's threats? He asked. That's partly why I'm doing this. If I move to Florida, establish residency there, her claims here hold less weight. Besides, I added, a small smile forming, it's what I want. For me. Thomas was quiet. For a long moment. When would you go? Soon. 2 weeks, maybe less. I've already contacted a realtor about selling this house. Selling? His eyes widened. But I thought, it's my house, I reminded him. And I've decided its value would serve me better as part of my new life. Caroline watched her brother carefully. Are you okay with this, Thomas? He seemed to struggle internally before nodding. It's not my decision to make. It's Mom's life. He turned to me. I just don't want to lose you, too. You won't, I promised. This isn't about running away. It's about moving forward. For the first time in weeks, I felt truly at peace with my decisions. Whatever Vanessa planned next, I would be ready. The next 10 days passed in a whirlwind of activity. The beachfront condo in Naples became mine with surprising speed. Cash offers have that advantage. Sandra handled the paperwork flawlessly, ensuring my financial security remained protected during the transition. I hired a moving company, carefully selecting which treasures would come with me and which would stay behind. Robert's fishing gear went to Thomas, who accepted it with tears in his eyes. Family photo albums were duplicated so both my children could have copies. Caroline helped me catalog everything, her organizational skills proving invaluable. "Have you heard from Vanessa?" she asked one afternoon as we packed kitchen items. "Not directly," I admitted. "But Helen says she's been asking questions around town about my health, making comments about poor Margaret and how grief has affected my judgment." Caroline's expression darkened. "She doesn't give up, does she?" "No, but neither do I." Thomas visited every other day, sometimes helping with packing, sometimes just sitting with me in comfortable silence. Our relationship was healing, one conversation at a time. "The realtor called," I told him during one visit. "There's already an offer on the house." He nodded, running his hand along the familiar kitchen counter. "I'll miss this place." "Me too," I said softly, "but it's time for something new." "Mom," he hesitated. "Vanessa filed for divorce yesterday." I squeezed his hand. "I'm sorry, Thomas, don't be. It's the right thing." He took a deep breath. "She's demanding half of everything, including any anticipated inheritance." "Which doesn't exist since the house is being sold," I pointed out. "Exactly. She's furious. I'd expected as much." "Will you be all right financially?" He nodded. "Dad's contracting business is doing well. I can rebuild." The day before my scheduled departure, Thomas arrived looking troubled. "Vanessa's lawyer contacted Adult Protective Services," he said without preamble. "She's claiming you're making irrational financial decisions due to cognitive decline. They want to interview you." I'd been expecting something like this. "When?" "Tomorrow at 9 a.m. My flight was scheduled for 2 p.m. "Cutting it close. I'll be there," I assured him. Sandra's prepared for this. The next morning dawned bright and clear. I dressed carefully in a tailored blue suit that Robert had always loved, applied light makeup, and reviewed the notes Sandra had prepared. By 8:30, I was ready. The doorbell rang precisely at 9. Sandra answered, leading the APS caseworker to the living room where Thomas, Caroline, and I waited. Dr. Branson had also agreed to attend, bringing my complete medical records. "Mrs. Clarke, I'm Diane Wilkins from Adult Protective Services," the woman introduced herself. She was younger than I expected, with kind eyes but a professional demeanor. "I understand there are concerns about recent decisions you've made." "Yes, my former daughter-in-law seems quite concerned," I replied calmly, though she never mentioned these concerns to me directly. Ms. Wilkins nodded, taking notes. "I understand you're planning to sell your home and move to Florida?" "That's correct. And this decision came shortly after your husband's passing. My husband and I discussed retiring to Florida for years," I explained. "His death made me realize life is too short to postpone dreams." For the next hour, Ms. Wilkins asked detailed questions about my finances, my understanding of the housing market, my medical history, and my decision-making process. Dr. Branson presented my recent cognitive assessments, all showing excellent mental function. Sandra provided documentation of Robert's preparations, the separate account, and my sound financial planning. "Mrs. Clarke," Ms. Wilkins said finally, "I see no evidence of diminished capacity or undue influence here. You seem fully aware of your decisions and their implications." "Thank you," I said simply. "I'll note in my report that this case appears to be—" She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Motivated by factors other than genuine concern for your welfare." After she left, we all breathed a collective sigh of relief. "That's the last hurdle," Sandra said, gathering her documents. "Your flight's in a few hours. You're free to go. Free." The word resonated through me. Thomas insisted on driving me to the airport. Caroline would follow in her rental car, then fly back to Colorado the next day. We loaded the last of my luggage, just 2 suitcases, as most of my belongings were being shipped directly to Naples. As we pulled out of the driveway, I took one last look at the house. So many memories within those walls. Robert's laugh echoing in the kitchen, Thomas learning to walk in the living room, Caroline's height marks penciled on the doorframe. Love, loss, joy, pain, all contained in wood and stone. "You okay, Mom?" Thomas asked softly. "Yes," I said, surprised to find it was true. I'm ready. At the airport, we said our goodbyes at security. Caroline hugged me tightly, promising to visit in 2 weeks. Thomas stood awkwardly for a moment before pulling me into a fierce embrace. I'm so sorry for everything, he whispered. I know, I said, patting his back. It's behind us now. I'll come visit soon, he promised, once everything's settled with the divorce. I'd like that. As I moved through security, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because I was leaving problems behind, but because I was moving toward something new, something chosen, not forced upon me. The flight to Naples was smooth. A car service waited at the airport as arranged by Caroline. The driver, an older gentleman named Eduardo, chatted amiably as we drove toward the coast. First time in Naples? He asked. First time living here? I corrected with a smile. My husband and I visited years ago. Ah, and where is your husband now? He passed away recently. Eduardo nodded sympathetically. I'm sorry. My wife passed 3 years ago. It gets easier, but it's never easy. No, I agreed. It's never easy. When we arrived at the condominium complex, the property manager was waiting with keys and paperwork. The condo itself took my breath away. Bright and airy, with a balcony, overlooking the Gulf of Mexico. Sunlight danced on blue water, and a gentle breeze carried the salt scent of the ocean. I stepped onto the balcony, feeling the warmth of the late afternoon sun on my face. This was what Robert and I had dreamed of. This was what he had protected for me. My phone buzzed with a text from Caroline. Landed safely? Yes, I replied. The condo is perfect. She sent back a heart emoji, followed by, heard from Thomas. Vanessa showed up at the house looking for you. The APS report was filed. Case closed. You're officially free. Free. There was that word again. I looked out at the endless horizon where sky met sea. Robert would have loved this view. I could almost feel him beside me, his hand warm on my shoulder. We made it, I whispered to the wind. That evening, I unpacked a small box of personal treasures, the first items to make this new place feel like home. Robert's watch, our wedding photo, the shell we'd found on this very beach decades ago. Placed them carefully on the bedside table, then opened the sliding door to let the sound of waves fill the room. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new adventures, a community to explore, people to meet, a life to build. But tonight, as the sun set in spectacular colors over the Gulf, I simply stood on my balcony and breathed. In this quiet moment, I wasn't a widow fighting for her rights, or a mother healing a broken relationship with her son. I was just Margaret, starting over at 73, completely on my own terms, and it felt exactly right.